stumbled into an alternate version of Jacob's Ladder, where he grows older and gets into vinyl.
Hello and welcome. It is Christmas. It's the AVForums podcast, and we're all excited, aren't we? So, joining us this evening, Ed Selley.
It ain't cool being no jive turkey so close to Thanksgiving.
Also here, Mark Hodgkinson.
Those men wanted to have sex with me.
And Mark Botwright.
A karate man bruises on the inside.
And finally, the man of the hour, Steve Withers.
Sounds to me like you guys are a bunch of bookies.
So, it's Christmas time. You're a scumbag, you're a faggot, you cheap... What is it again?
I don't know.
That could have been the intro for all of us there.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but there's actually the four of you, so it doesn't work. There's only 3 insults in that line. Okay, so, Mr. Withers, what are you drinking this evening, and what are you eating?
I've got another nice bottle of Côte de Rome, courtesy of the Co-op, actually. But it's very, very good, drinking that. And I've got some mince pies.
Okay, and Mr. Botwright?
A cheeky homemade wine.
What fruit?
Or homemade drain cleaner, depending on how you view it. And a Christmassy, typical English chicken korma.
It beats my spag bowl. Hodge, what you got?
I've got a rather nice Singer beer, just about to finish that, and then I shall be tucking into an Australian Shiraz.
I think the whole world now knows what Mr. Selley has, because he's tweeted it a few times, and there's all sorts of things that you're signing yourself up to here. What is it that you have this evening?
Well, I'm most of the way through the Delirium Christmas beer from Belgium. 10%. So yeah, that's got a certain liveliness.
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, a certain I don't know what. And then I'm going to move on to the festive Christmas porter. It's got a Santa Claus on the front, which is always a benchmark of quality. And then, if I can still speak and see, there's a 12 days from the Hook Norton Brewery just up the road from me, and I'm not eating anything because, as we all know, eating is cheating. And yeah, I'm sure I might ingest food if I can successfully make it downstairs without dying later on. So yeah, it'll be fine.
Okay. So we're lining ourselves up for a fantastic podcast this evening. Stand by to be entertained, or am I overselling this? I think
I've no idea. We have no idea how these things are going to go.
Always under-promise and then over-deliver.
Yeah, yeah. That's the way I live my life.
So it's going to be a shit podcast, and if it turns out to be halfway mediocre, that's the result. If we somehow break the trend of the previous 52, then...
You cynical bastard. We've produced some diamond moments. Admittedly, most of them are unpublishable, but we had some cracking.
Well, normally for a Christmas podcast, what I'd do is I'd go away and have a look in the archives and pick out some of the bits where we make mistakes and all the rest of it. But actually, I just leave them in the podcast these days. So. And like you say, all the stuff that's on the cutting room floor is stuff that we could never publish.
What I've noticed you actually do, Phil, is you never cut out my cock-ups, but you always cut out yours. Even when I repeat something in order to give you an edit point to remove the mistake, you deliberately leave it in, which is really fucking annoying.
Yeah, but then I've got the power of the edit, so there you go.
Merry Christmas.
Merry New Year!
Right, before we go any further and it descends into chaos, 14th of January, which is after CES, that'll be the next podcast. We've decided that ahead of time. This is the last one for the year, last one for the Christmas period, and right, Sony leak. This was interesting, Steve, and you wanted to bring it up for what reason?
Because Steve's the person that hacked them.
It was not me. Please don't think that.
Yeah, well, you have trouble switching a computer on, never mind hacking it.
Yeah, I couldn't hack my way,
It would be a great sleeper for North Korea, though.
That would be awesome. Yeah, if we've gone this far, Steve Withers, former
how many decades of deep cover to finally just hack Sony's computers?
Committed communist. Not only a communist, an actual Marxist-Leninist. That'd be fantastic.
Well, anyway, back to Ed, Phil's question. Ed mentioned it at last week's podcast, and I hadn't at that point actually read any of the details, which have obviously been widely reported now in just about every media outlet I can think of. Some of it, obviously, there's a lot of stuff, that shouldn't have been published, things like people's personal information, their social security numbers, their salaries, that kind of stuff. But a lot of interesting insight into the way that the studios run, because obviously the main target of this hack isn't necessarily Sony Japan, but Sony Studios. And the reason for the hack, it would appear to be, is that the release of their new film, The Interview, Seth Rogen and James Franco, is about them going to interview and assassinate the leader of North Korea. And so the suggestion is that North Korea is behind the hack. And then even more worryingly and quite outrageously today, there's been reports of people claiming they're going to blow up the premiere in any cinema that's showing it in the States. So it's taken a turn for the nasty. But certainly some of the information released was quite true. I mean, obviously everyone's had a really good laugh at some of the comments they made about Adam Sandler movies. I think that's fair enough. I think we all knew that they were shit. I think I was just surprised that Sony weren't even making any money from them. So why bother making them? But one thing that I did come up that I thought was interesting, there were some comments in an email about media, about, film delivery, basically. And Sony themselves were, basically saying they want to push downloading and streaming as the way forward, and that Blu-ray was essentially dead. They didn't even mention 4K, so you can forget about that. But this is the company that developed Blu-ray. I know that the BDA involves more than one company, but this is the company that developed it. This is the company that bought a studio in order to have software to release on their various formats, and even they don't seem to have any faith in it anymore. So, because interestingly, I was calibrating a guy's Sony TV last week. One of the new curved ones, Mark, which was quite good.
Easy money, if I may say so.
Yes.
Hope you gave him a discount, did you?
No. I had to go all the way to Hereford. It was bloody miles. Right. A great picture, actually, and very, very accurate, even out of the box. I was quite impressed. Not as good as the 9005, but then it doesn't have the massive speakers, and it looked quite nice, wall-mounted, I have to say, for a curved TV. I was very impressed. Anyway, he had the media drive that they've been giving to people who buy their TVs with 10 4K movies on the drive, although you could only select 5, and after 2 months or something like that, you can't watch them anymore. It's like, great. That's the future we've got to look forward to, getting royally f***ed on a regular basis.
Right, warning, that's 3 f***s now. That's enough.
Have I said too many f***s?
Yes.
Oh, then again.
Swear box is looking healthy.
4 f***s on this podcast.
Getting royally screwed on a regular basis, then. How about that? I also, strangely, watching some of the stuff, didn't look particularly good. I did have to explain to the guy that 4K 55-inch TV isn't going to be mind-blowing because it's relatively small, given the amount of pixels you're looking at. And
it depends where you're sitting. I mean,
I was sat right next to it, and I was still thinking, it's not blowing me up. Although I must say, Ghostbusters look pretty impressive because I've never seen that in 4K before. Anyway, so there you go. Maybe even though that we might see something about 4K Blu-ray at CES in a couple of weeks' time, I wouldn't necessarily hold your breath for there being loads of software out there to watch on it.
Well, I wasn't anyway. Only you were. Sorry, I need to bring this up again. Everyone else is just there going too late.
It's definitely going the streaming way. That's the way it's going to go. And
even you realise that, Steve, don't you? Really, deep down. Even before this Sony stuff, you knew that.
Well, I suspected, yes. But
face your fears.
Face up to it, man.
I don't. I like having discs.
Come on, Grant.
You like having dicks.
Discs. It's nice to own a disc in its box and have it to watch whenever you want to, and not be at the mercy of the studio's capricious nature.
But Steve, you're now an old man.
My dinosaur, am I?
Yeah, I hate to break it to you.
This
Theodore
has turned
Rex.
into an intervention. Steve, you need to let it go.
Yeah, 4K Blu-ray, it's just not going to happen, mate. Sorry. You need to find something else to pin your hopes to for your future.
In comes Ed with vinyl. Watch out.
Or Pussycats.
Yeah. Kids, it's not too late.
I've cracked open the festive Christmas porter from the Burton Bridge Beers Brewery. I don't want to say that too quickly too many times. And it's jolly nice. It's what Guinness wishes it could be, but can't be, because it has to be like safe and certified and shit.
Yeah, but at least you're not going to go blind drinking a Guinness.
I don't think I'm going to go blind drinking this. It's just got a sort of natural taste to it that, stuff that the industrial brewing stuff just can't do anymore.
He's gone.
That delirium's got him. There's the smell of Christmas.
I think someone suggested this should be our first video podcast.
Oh, that would be scary.
I just wanted to appear on RudeTube.
I know, but I would have loved to have seen the edit points in that.
It would have been about 3 minutes long.
Did anybody else follow the Sony hack apart from me?
I've read bits and bobs, yeah.
I thought, I mean, it was interesting that should we say the more damaging thing for Sony wasn't the fact that there were movies out there. There wasn't the fact that it seems to be quite damaging from a kind of an artistic point of view. They are meddling with the way that people make films. But that it was the payroll information that might actually land them in the hottest water.
But any company that lost that information.
It's not just losing the information; it's the suits that might be brought against them for
that could be quite damaging.
But I don't think that there are many companies out there that would not be in the same position were their information to be made public.
Why is it always Sony though? They're always getting hacked, aren't they?
Yeah, they need to work with their firewalls. They really do.
There is that lingering thought that North Korea have just jumped on this and claimed responsibility.
Oh, there's the timing is very convenient though, isn't it?
It's like a fluky free kick that's gone into the top corner, and they've said, "No, we meant that. That was us."
Don't you think this would make a better movie? The story behind it would make a better movie than the movie.
Probably
the interviews. It sounds rubbish. Actually, I think it's a stupid idea for a film.
Seeing a bit of the death sequence, though, it does look quite good. I can see. Has anyone seen like the clip of?
I thought that we couldn't see it because the world would end.
Well, you've got to say that this is a marketing masterstroke for Sony. I mean, how many people were going to go and see the interview before all this happened? Probably not a lot. How many are we going to demand to want to go and see it now?
I'm not going to go and see it. Someone might blow the cinema up.
Oh, give over, you. Is that how you're going? Is how you're going to live your life, Steve?
I just love the back and forth about Sondler movies. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Why do we keep making these awful movies? We don't even make any money out of them. I guess... It's like, if you just worked that out, Sony, because I could have told you that 20 years ago.
It's sad, but that will be the tagline on the next Adam Sandler film. That's the best quote they could get.
Why do we keep making Adam Sandler movies?
Yeah. They were moaning about, there was apparently some interesting stuff. That was the emails where they were discussing the possibility of giving Spider-Man back to Marvel because they'd cut that one up as well, or at least doing maybe giving Marvel the right to use Spider-Man in a Marvel movie, which I think everyone would love to see. Love Marvel to take Spider-Man back and do a decent job with it. Well, then this might be just because he hasn't been done very well so far.
I just think actually the comics as well. Same way Superman is dull, Peter Parker is he just needs a good slapping, really. He's just fundamentally not an endearing or relatable character. Just a twat.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Merry Christmas.
I noticed The Verge are reporting that certainly in the US, theatre owners do not have to show it. So Sony are telling theatre chains that they won't object to them withdrawing the film on safety grounds. Really? And then they're calling for
I love the way the MPAA, I think it was the MPAA rather than Sony actually, Phil, who then said, if you report any of this stuff, you'll get sued. Can anyone else here say horse, bolted? It's just like a bit late now, mate. It really is a bit late.
Yeah, although there seems to be a lot of, certainly on Twitter, a lot of people with the hashtag get it online or see it online, urging Sony to release the interview online right now because not even North Korea can stop the internet. It's basically the time.
Blow up internet.
Try.
Well, it didn't break under attack from Kim Kardashian's arse. So yeah, there's something in that.
Maybe North Korea set up Kim Kardashian's arse.
Yeah, that would.
This is a very deep rabbit hole we're about to go down.
Well, they may as well claim credit for it.
And we're not talking about Kim Kardashian's arse.
Boom boom. Right, so that's a Sony leak. And
so Merry Christmas, Sony.
I'm going to say, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Like we were saying, it's something that's got to work in their favour. It's got to.
It's the kind of thing where, it's almost perfect to set it up for here's the uncensored version. Because there aren't many films now where, you get much of a buzz around something being uncut. But this is a scene that, a lot of people would now be quite interested in.
Well, I mean, look at The Exorcist, all right? There was no interest in that, but there was a very, very clever PR man who said that there was people coming out of the cinema being sick and thinking that they were possessed and all the rest of it, and people fainting, and they had to call ambulances into the premiere and stuff like that. It was all utter bollocks. But
that's like the amount of films that get lumped in as video nasties or were claimed to be banned, and the amount that actually were is minuscule in comparison.
And the ones that were actually good, even smaller. But people still want you to see them.
You know how you see those Blu-rays get released where it's like the version they wouldn't let you see? Well, now they can do the interview, the version they brackets, North Korea, close brackets, wouldn't let you see.
I mean, it doesn't say much for the American security services if they're panicking about North Korea being able to carry out the threats on US soil. I mean, come on.
How far can they fire a potato?
Yeah, but then there may be loads of sleepers out there like Withers, so they've got to be careful. People living superficially normal lives who are fully paid up agents.
Send them into the banking industry.
Yeah, well, we destroyed the banking.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
That's a good point.
That was all part of the plan.
Christ.
I knew exactly what I was doing.
Which is the first time in history.
I was only pretending to be a clueless, coked-up idiot.
Bloody good at it, I bet.
Outstanding.
It was an extremely good act.
Method acting.
Yeah, you should get the Oscar for that one. Right, so we're back for some hardware news. And is HiFi making a comeback? Well, Ed would probably argue that it's never gone away.
Bloody right, I'll argue that.
Sorry?
You're bloody right, I'll argue that. It never went away. Certain people lost the faith, and they're realising that they were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there's things here saying everyday household essentials, people spend £201 a year on toiletries. Really? As little as that? Must be some smelly people around.
Does toiletries include toilet paper?
No.
I've always wanted to know.
No.
No. All right, fair enough.
But anyway, there was a report came out this week saying I haven't even been drinking. Music lovers spend almost as much on home audio equipment, an average of £172 per year, as they do on everyday household essentials such as toiletries, kitchen cleaning products, household care, where they spend £201 a year on average. The 2014 Audio Christmas wish list is home cinema systems. You're not going to get that for 172 quid.
Well, you probably can.
eBay, no worries.
Maybe. Bluetooth wireless speakers.
Though, isn't it? So that's
no, it's £172 per year. If you read your bit of text that you put on the
spending £200 a month on toiletries.
I see drinking them.
Anyway.
I spend considerably more on both, I have to say.
What?
Well, aren't you f***ing fragrant?
I knew this was gonna be a mistake. Right, so anyway, Ed, it seems to be that people are spending more on home audio equipment. This is what the point of this whole report was, that noise-cancelling headphones, wireless headphones, home cinema and Bluetooth wireless speakers, they're all more popular this year than they've ever been. There's more people buying them. And, well, we've been reviewing them, so there must be people interested in it.
Yeah, and basically, there was a period of time where there was a degree of uncertainty about what audio equipment, what sort of form and what functions it was going to do and how much you were supposed to pay for it. But, we've got new categories have both emerged and now they make, they're kind of fixed. We've seen, we see Bluetooth speakers at certain points. We see soundbars at certain points. And then we see all these, clever Sonos rivals again at given price increments. And ultimately, people now feel comfortable with some of these, basically product categories that didn't exist 5 years ago, let alone 10. They know where they stand now. They know what they want. They know they are storing their music and using their music in different ways. And yeah, I think after a period of being a bit unclear about what they want their home audio to do, it's now there's lots of choice, lots of flexibility, and yeah, I don't think it's enormously surprising. I do find it quite heartening. Equally, quite realistically, I don't know how many of these people are going to move into the full initiate lunacy sort of level that I like to inhabit. But it's a case of now you can buy something in the knowledge that the chances are it's not going to be rendered obsolete overnight. It's going to perform in a way that you're familiar with. It's going to interact nicely with the other devices, and yeah, I think it's good news. But there are good solid reasons for why it's happening now.
Yeah, and one of those reasons, Steve, is so you can have house parties and have music in the background.
Yeah,
dinner parties.
Sorry, dinner
parties. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'll get the terminology right.
Yeah.
Yes, dinner party or any social event where you could then have music. You could have music fed to every room in the house if you wanted to. I mean, we've reviewed quite a few wireless systems this year.
Yeah, but I live on my own. I only sit in one room at a time.
Yeah, all right, not for you possibly then. Well, no, but you could have music in the bedroom and in the lounge and in the kitchen, couldn't you, if you wanted to? Even you. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be restricted to because you're one person.
Sometimes.
Or I could just turn up the Genelex in the subwoofer in the living room and still hear it in the other rooms.
That's another option.
Obviously, you don't want to offend your neighbours.
I don't have any
more
neighbours.
than £172 a year, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you can add a few years together, can't you?
Well, I would hope that that's what's happening. I mean, excuse me, I'm just inhaling my porter.
That's not supposed to snort it, Ed. You're supposed to drink it.
If you're looking at if you look at the price of not just Sonos, but if you look at some of the systems that Mark, in particular, Mr. Hodgkinson, has been reviewing the Samsung alternatives, the LG systems and the like. Obviously they come in, they're under £1,000.
I'm getting a Philips one in tomorrow, which you could do 5 rooms for.
Jesus, you're doing something other than Samsung.
He's run out. Mark has actually reviewed everything that Samsung make and some things that they don't.
Yeah, well, I'm from South Korea. I'm a counter-terrorist to Steve. I'm getting a Philips one in. You could do 5 rooms for about £400. Tomorrow.
So yeah, I mean these things are. I mean that's where that's where the growth is. I mean I'm not going to pretend for a second that it's, we've seen some amazing and quite pleasing numbers about vinyl, but I'm a realist. That's a mad person's interest in the corner of things. But people are realistically seeing stuff in store and online which fulfills roles that they want at prices they're happy with, and they're confident that it's going to keep. That the way that it does it is not going to be rendered obsolete overnight. And those 3 things combine and people start spending money again. It's ironic because that's exactly what's not happening in home cinema. And that's where the problems start. Ultimately, we see a slowdown in AV receivers and the like because they're offering functions that people don't need. There's uncertainty over, format stuff. Is Atmos going to matter? All these things. And then also it comes in at price points that, your average Joe public goes, do you mind if I don't? I'll spend that on something else. So there's a degree of uncertainty about AV equipment that used to be present with 2-channel equipment where, it was unclear about how we were going to handle things after CD and what we were going to do and stuff like that. That's all, but all those questions are basically answered. It's all pretty logical. And as a result, you're seeing sales go up, and I don't think that's a coincidence. And but don't get me wrong, the job for 2-channel manufacturers is easier than it is trying to do the same thing, retaining some of the benchmarks of performance that a full-fat multi-channel system can do. But the other thing is that the 2-channel market has seen a real kick up the arse by the intervention of Apple. However, wittingly or unwittingly, the iPod onwards and then iPads as control interfaces and things like that. It just took the audio industry in directions it had no intention of going without outside intervention, but it to its credit, responded reasonably quickly. And then completely on the other side of that, you've then got the sort of retro cool factor of it's not as geeky as it was perhaps a couple of years ago to have a full conventional audio system. It's sort of reverted back, especially if it's fronted by a turntable. They go, oh, that's not necessarily what I'd want to do, but people sort of appreciate it possibly on an ironic level, possibly on a kitsch level, but nonetheless it's being appreciated. Whereas if you've just got a room full of, with the greatest of respect to your Genelex, I know they sound bloody marvellous, Phil, but there's still a sort of industrial brutality to them, which is not necessarily going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, but there's only me. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to impress anybody. So they do.
No, absolutely. But equally, for those of us who have, have to balance the other requirements of, children, wives, and so on and so forth.
That's your problem. Your choices,
well, no,
life choices. You know
right,
what I mean?
But it's a problem that we have to deal with nonetheless.
moan, bloody moan. You made the choices. Live it.
I am living with it. It's fine.
I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I'm not lonely at all.
Phil?
The number
Where are you, Phil?
is
calling out to our listeners: spend time with an AV enthusiast at Christmas. They just want to talk.
Affected by the issues.
Spend just a
If
few
you're affected by any of the
minutes
issues that
listening
mentioned
to
this
their tales
podcast, don't call us.
Speakers.
Can I just say this may be our bleakest effort yet?
What would this be? This is a Christmas podcast. We haven't talked about Christmas for the last 10 minutes.
This is
I
us
feel like topping myself.
Right. Are we going to have a pee break at this point, seeing as everybody's drinking?
No, I'm doing all right. If you break the seal, then
Exactly.
all hell breaks loose.
All right, okay. So you want me to carry on here?
Well, I've got
Break
most
the
of mid
seal.
12 days. I'll need more beer at the rate we're not doing this, but yeah.
Right, okay, so let's move things on. We've got some articles, some buyer's guides and stuff coming up for Christmas, thank God. Maybe a bit late. Christmas bargains under 50 quid and under £100 mark. If you are leaving things a bit late, but not late enough that you're going to the late night petrol station to buy your presents.
It's plenty of time. There's plenty of time. Friday.
Club and a bacon
Family-sized bag of
tomato
coal. I saw this and thought of you.
They're all available on the. You come to me now.
Yeah. But I've got to say though that filling stations, gift-wise, they're a lot better than they were 5 years ago.
Speaking from
with a
experience.
level of bitter experience there.
No, I don't think you can get any of these at a gift station, a petrol station that I know of. Yeah, 5 gift ideas under 50 quid, or AKA the 5 products we've reviewed this year under 50 quid. Sorry about that. Well, it's pretty much the truth. But although, having said that, 4 of them are quite good. We've got the Roku streaming stick, which is a media player. I'm sure regular listeners will know it. It does things like Netflix and Now TV and YouTube and Google Play and all the streaming services. Basically, it's probably the most comprehensive platform out there, barring the Samsung Smart TVs. You can have that for 50 quid. Very nice. Something that Ed reviewed. So I stole some of his text, which was the Shure SE 112 or 1112 earphones. Ed?
Yeah, they are genuinely excellent. If 50 quid's your upper limit, you cannot do better than them. They are really, really, it's stupidly good. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. One of those things. It's if you buy them for someone else, they'll unwrap it. They're just like Battleship Grey, and they go, "Oh, you bought me for Grey." Get them to listen to them; they will love you. They are just really, really unreasonably good for 46 quid, and you can actually find it for a bit less.
I've been coming around to the idea of to in-ears. I've tried out a few, and I can live with it actually. And it is quite nice having that complete seal from the outside world. So,
oh yeah, if you can budget an extra 16 quid. And get the big foam bungs.
Yeah, the Christmas tree bungs that you mentioned.
And they're not Christmas trees. Literally, it's just a foam cylinder, like a tiny gladiator pugil stick.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most. It doesn't look like the most prepossessing thing to stuck into your ear. I can assure you of that. But there is literally no better seal out there. If you look at performers on stage and the rest of it, though, some people use custom ear molds, but quite a few of them are using higher up the Shure food chain than the 112, but they're just using them with the foam bung, and it works a treat.
There we go.
Really, really effective. But do please pay attention if you are using them in a public place, because if you are walking around with traffic, cyclists, forklift trucks, you are at risk. So please be careful. That's my Christmas don't drink and drive. I mean, obviously I'm drinking, so that's irrelevant.
Or just buy someone you want dead. So that's another idea.
That's another option. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got something that Greg reviewed, which was the Netgear N300 travel router and range extender, which is just a Wi-Fi extender. It costs about 27 quid, I think it was. And you can also use it as a router when you're on your travels for any Wi-Fi reception in the hotel. He said it was all right. Just
see them asking for that quote then, can't they? Can we use that quote?
All right. You got 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's positive. And then there's a very unassuming looking portable speaker from Toshiba, which is a TY-SB3. I think you can pick that up for 35 quid. And it's actually, speaking from experience, pretty good. It dialogue's quite nice, and it's clear, never distorts. Bluetooth is reliable. You know, it doesn't look much, but it sounds quite all right. And then the Now TV box, which is in essence the Roku platform shrunk down and promoting Sky's Now TV non-subscription service. And you can pick that one for £10 and you get an HDMI cable in the box, so that pays for itself pretty much. So that's your gifts under 50 quid. And gifts are under 100. We'll go back to the Roku again, Roku platform again, which is the Roku 3, which has all the same services as the streaming stick, but it is incredibly quick. It provides probably the best experience for iPlayer, Netflix, and Now TV that I've used. It's also got a USB port for media playback, Wi-Fi, remote. It's just a fabulous little box and has virtually everything you could want. Streaming wise, over to Ed again. There's a bit of a pattern there, isn't there? Final Heaven 2, Ed.
Yeah, stupid name, great earphone. They are, as best as I can work out, the cheapest armature based earphone that I've reviewed. Certainly I've found the only pair under £100 that use armatures. Now that means that, going back to what we're saying about having a decent seal in your ear, you absolutely need that, otherwise you just won't get what they're about. But if you get a proper seal, just the detail, the speed and the sensitivity that they have over conventional like dynamic drivers, so like tiny normal driver earphones, just untouchable. They are pretty much, at least 80% as good as the Heaven 4, which is nearly 200 quid. And now that, admittedly, that comes in like a cigarette tin, which is pretty cool, but a bit pointless. So yeah, for 90 quid, you can't do much better than that for earphones. If you can, provided that you aren't one of those people that then needs to make calls and annoy people on the train and have a microphone on the cord, you can't do better than the Heaven 2.
Oh, sorry, I just realised I missed the opportunity to make someone's Christmas streams come true for the Roku 3. Anyway, sorry about that. Then we've got the Samsung BD-H6500 Blu-ray player, which is available for under 100 quid. When I reviewed it was about 150 and worth the money then. Which, it's a Blu-ray player that does the job exactly as you expect. 3D capable, great scaling, and also arguably you could just buy it as a media streaming box, given the amount of Samsung smart TV services, so all the catch-up players, all the video on demand players that Roku has, bar Now TV. It's quite an operation. Yeah, it's great little thing. All you could need for less than 100 quid. Then there was a wireless speaker, which was kind of on message for what we were talking about previously, which is the Bayan Audio Soundbook Go. It's an 80 quid wireless speaker. Looks great, easy to use. Bluetooth is reliable. Sounds really nice for less than 80 quid. And then we come to the Amazon Fire TV, which is essentially quite similar to the Roku, but more heavily geared towards Amazon Prime Instant Video. So basically the whole user interface is pushing their content. But there is Netflix and YouTube and iPlayer and all that stuff too. But it's kind of like, this one's a bit more techy. You can sideload Android apps and have XBMC, Kodi running on it, Firefox browsers, game emulators. It also does native Android games as well, and there's a games controller with it, like a micro console idea, and it's a very nifty little device for around £80.
Fun fact, during that segment, I took a drink every time that Mark said the word Roku, and I've now gone blind.
I'm not sponsored by Roku, but my mum's getting a Roku 3 for Christmas, so it shows you how to do really.
Rocking with
Roku. I mispronounce it every time. You're actually supposed to say Roku. I can't bring myself to say Roku. It's Roku.
Okay, we're going to do best products. Right, best TV of the year, Steve, was?
I am going to go for the Sony X9005.
Okay, and Mark?
Well, my best TV this year?
Yeah.
It ought to be a Samsung. So let's go
otherwise your handler will kill you.
Yeah. Let's go for the HU7500, which was a flat 4K TV at a great price. Looked great. Brilliant.
Okay. Projectors, I'm guessing it's going to be the VW500 here, Steve, or maybe even the 300.
Yes, VW300. Projector, yeah.
You're paying attention here.
What?
442.
Okay, moving on to AVRs. Steve, your favourite AVR of the year was?
Anthem MRX 710.
Okay, and Ed?
It's the Yamaha 3040. Now, you could be cynical and say it's the only AV receiver I reviewed this year, except that it's not, because I also reviewed. I also reviewed the Pioneer earlier on, and obviously, as a scummy free agent, I have been looking at AV receivers for other people and other things. The 3040 is literally a viceless product, genuinely excellent, sounds amazing. Looks perfectly inoffensive, beautifully built, and it's a joy to live with day to day. What more could you ask for?
Okay, let's move on to Blu-ray players. Hodge, what did you think?
The one I just said, Samsung BD-H6.
Would be a bloody Samsung. Steve?
Sony something, following the pattern.
I'll go for the Oppo. It's a bit pricey, but you get what you pay for. It's well built. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to look better than any other Blu-ray player, but you get really good build quality. You get loads of features. You can also modify it very easily for a multi-region playback. So I'll go for the Oppo BDP 103.
Phil?
Okay.
What was your DVD player of the year?
I've only seen one.
Go on.
Ed had only seen one AVR, but he's talking about that.
Let's move on. Streamers. Who wants to
do I have to say Roku again?
Yeah, okay.
Roku.
Well, actually, I'll back you up on that one, because I went and bought a Roku 3, and it's been one of the best boxes I've had. So I'd have to agree with you on that one. Steve, any preference here? I mean, I know you were a big Apple TV advocate.
I've got Apple TV, but it's not something I'd recommend to most people unless you live in a very, your home is an Apple ecosystem.
The Flight TV does AirPlay, and it does anything you want, really, to be honest. But yeah, you don't need an Apple TV.
Yeah, you don't, and it is limited. I use it basically because it's easy to use with unblockers for US access to Netflix. So that's what I got it for.
Yeah.
Streaming wise, though, I'm trying to think. There's been quite a lot of multi-room systems that have come out this year. I know Mark's seen Samsung and LG. I've seen Samsung and also Simple Audio.
Right, and finally, let's move on to headphones. Edward.
Do I get to choose a headphone and an earphone, or does it have to just be one?
Oh, you would want to, wouldn't you? Go on.
Right, headphone, Oppo's PM1. Just an extraordinary product. Quite why they decided to take a break from making Blu-ray players and make a pair of headphones, I've no idea, but they made a truly amazing pair of headphones.
I think the answer to that might be the Blu-rays on the way out, as you've pointed out.
This is true, but why? But why? It's not a logical product jump, is it?
No.
But nonetheless, they are sensationally good. In-ear, I reviewed 2 amazing pairs of in-ears. The best sounding were the crazily named Noble Kaiser K10s, but they were £1,000, and they did a couple of things that annoyed me a little bit. So the best is the Sennheiser IE800, because they sounded 90% as good, and they are no more difficult to live with than any other pair of earphones you've ever used. They are just peerless.
They look quite cool as well.
They little ceramic bodies and the rest of it. They are just magnificent. I have on occasions actually thought about handing over my own money for a pair, but actually earlier today I had to buy a washing machine, so there you go. That's life in a nutshell.
How much are they, Ed?
They're yours for 600. Well, the list is 600. They are available for a bit less than that. I'm not going to pretend for a second that's not a stupid amount of money to spend on earphones. But back when I reviewed it, and in the copy as well, if you're a commuter and you spend more time on the train listening to music than you do sat at home listening to music, you would be mad to spend more money on speakers than on those earphones. It's as simple as that. Are you having a piss?
He's having a piss.
I couldn't be bothered to go to the toilet, so I'm just using this glass.
Oh,
that's better.
Damn your eyes, I need a piss now, you bastard.
And we're good to go.
Right,
I was just pouring out some more wine, actually.
Hey, you will, but I still need a piss, you arsehole.
Right, I think after 58 minutes of recording, that wraps up the hardware. Right, time for games news, and Mark, we've got a games podcast out at the moment. What's in it?
Yep. Well, we recorded pretty much straight after the PlayStation event in Las Vegas, which came with various trailers and announcements, and that obviously was hot on the heels of the Games Awards, which had a few different gameplay trailers and the like. Big ones, obviously, things like Uncharted. We got to see a bit more of that. The same of The Order, No Man's Sky. Strangely, we stumbled upon a conversation about The Secret Footballer. I'm not fully sure how we got there. But other than that, DayZ, Niall was lamenting how long it's taking, and also Leon had a few kind of bones to pick with the Master Chief Collection, which thus far has had some, should we say, connectivity issues.
Okay, so if people want more information, they can go and download, obviously after listening to this masterpiece of a podcast, they can go and download the Games podcast.
They haven't listened to it already, of course, as I believe many thousands have. Well, if people haven't already listened to the Games podcast, of course, as many thousands have.
You're drunk, aren't you?
I thought that was the idea. I'm mostly all drunk. Well, except Phil.
Oh,
He's
what
just
have I let myself in for
baffled.
here? I'm like, what are you talking about?
No, we were saying go and listen to the podcast, the Games podcast, but people may have already listened to it.
You ought to credit people the intelligence that they wouldn't go and listen to it again. It's
Well, I have already downloaded it and listened to it, but Phil just said go and listen to it.
Yeah.
What? It's like
what I meant
you mean
was
like in men's toilets with the
numbers have
please
been
wash
quite
your
good
hands.
this month for the Games podcast.
If we had an actual AVForums user called Many Thousands, that would be brilliant, because we could say that many thousands have viewed or listened to or basically consumed whatever content we did.
Well, we were up to 15 listeners last week, but I think the state of this podcast, we'll probably lose them all.
I'm off to create a secondary user account called Manny Millions. If you say it quickly.
But he's Scottish, isn't he? And he likes curly whirlies.
Oh, the magic word. Is it one word or two?
The magic Scottish word was murder.
Murder.
Been a murder. Or the co-op
Middle
that is
Earth?
good with thud.
Little Earth. Anything else you want me to say?
No, it's
She
fine.
can I take it?
She can't take it.
It sounds too good.
You'll never take our
natural
freedom.
Scottish accent.
You may take our lives, but you'll never take our freedom.
And that's games news.
So, Steve, you went to the cinema, and what did you see?
Well, Phil, as the music probably just given away to anyone who's seen it, I saw the last of the Hobbit films, The Battle of the Five Armies. Bittersweet experience for me, really, because I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings movies. I really, really enjoyed them. They were brilliant, and I've had very mixed feelings about the Hobbit films, aside from the obvious fact that there didn't need to be three, and there's an awful lot of obvious padding, particularly in the first two. I just found it to be a really disappointing experience, actually. I just felt it, bizarrely, could done with another half an hour. Despite what I just said, because there's loads of characters just disappear, and there's loads of loose ends, and nothing's tidied up. You just keep thinking, I know they're going to have all this in the extended cut come November, so what a waste of time sitting and watching this. Also, I remember last year when I was talking about the second film, The Desolation of Smaug, saying why didn't it end with the dragon being killed instead of the dragon buggering off to attack Lake Town? And sure enough, the dragon is probably attacked Lake Town and is killed before the main credit title comes up for the Battle of the Five Armies. So it's kind of
Spoiler.
Not really a spoiler, because
it spoiled it for me.
Yeah, you've just ruined it for me. I've just finished.
I
just finished the Desolation of
Seen the
Smaug.
second film, so if you thought the dragon was going to survive, well, for you.
I haven't read the books yet.
Book.
Oh.
Killjoy. Doing my Christmas.
No, it just I struggle with it's over designed. So all three films, they're over designed. So there's lots of stupid looking design in it that's just unnecessary, which I think is just a function of having too much money and too much time. It's got way too much CG. I know I'm not saying there wasn't a lot of CG in the original films, but it was done in a way that seemed more realistic. This is just, it looks really fake. The whole thing looks fake all the time. Too much CG, too much silly design.
I hate more, it's an unrealistic orc.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I mean, but you say that, Ed. But in the original films, the orcs were blokes in suits, makeup. Now it's these CG stuff all the time. It's suffering from a severe case of George Lucasisms.
I've got to say, talking about the orc, there was and I think I sent you the link to it, and I might put the link in the in the show notes. underneath this podcast, but Saturday Night Live did a whole Hobbit versus The Office pun play about sketch type thing, which was hilarious, and the guy dressed up as an orc in that looked better than what I've seen in both the films that I've seen so far.
Yeah, no, it's they started using CG for all the orcs, which was unnecessary because the makeup was great in the first, the original Lord of the Rings films. It lacked any of the magic that they got it. They really nailed it with those original films. You know, they were hugely successful. They were critically acclaimed. They won a boatload of Oscars. Everyone loved them. These ones made money. Don't get me wrong, but given that he spent nearly $1 billion making them, they aren't going to make that much money for the studios.
But the problem was that, I see it as a problem. Lord of the Rings, he had producers who
telling him what to do.
Were pushing him all the time and saying, not too long, cut it down, make it slicker, blah, blah, blah. This time around, nobody dare get in his way. And the same was with King Kong. You know, cut an hour out of that and it would have been a really slick movie and it would have been probably a modern masterpiece, but it's just too overly long, overly bloated. And I've seen both the Hobbit films now, same thing. You know, that could have been one movie, maybe two movies maximum.
They could have done two movies. They could have been 2.5-hour films. It would have been tight. It would have been fun. And they could have still worked in some stuff to tie it in with Lord of the Rings more. And that would have been great. But they've been greedy, 3 films. And it just there's a whole section, Phil, you've seen Destination Smart. The whole section where the dwarves are fighting the dragon. They make that big giant gold dwarf. That's just pure filler.
Yeah,
they could have cut that whole sequence out and had the dragon attack Lake Town, and have the end of that film being Bilbo looking at the burning city and saying, "What have we done?" That would have been a great way of ending it. And then the next film starts off with the aftermath of all that. But for some reason, and this is what really struck me as being unusual, was that the whole of Battle of Armies just felt rushed. They felt like they were rushing. There was loads of stuff cut out. Things didn't make any sense. Beorn, who's a big character in the second film, he's in it for, I'm not kidding, 22 seconds. I mean, you will blink and miss him if you're not careful. Same with Radagast the Brown. You know, he turns up for about 5 seconds. You know, you kind of thinking like, well, there's loads of stuff missing here. And you kind of felt like, why didn't you just give us the full film? Given this is meant to be the end of the whole thing, it's this last Middle-earth movie, it ties everything together. It was a disappointment in that sense. I mean, I gave it 8 out of 10 because I think for fans, they'll probably enjoy it. And there's lots of stuff in there that and there's lots of stuff in there that's good, by the way. I mean, I think Thorin, his character has some really good stuff in it. But Legolas is borderline, there's a scene where he's jumping on bricks. It's basically like watching Super Mario. It's ridiculous. And I don't know how much actual shooting under Blue did. I think maybe he did about 5 minutes, and the rest of it was just motion capture and CG, because half the time his character is just CG. And still manages to look really old compared to his previous incarnation. For me, it was disappointing. I just felt like it could have been better, and it kept constantly trying to remind you of Return of the King. There were scenes that were just almost exactly the same, but not as good. And there was a whole love relationship between Tariel the elf and Killy the dwarf that just doesn't ring true at all. So
I thought that was kind of staged in the second film.
Again, it's filler. It was just forced, unnecessary. It's like someone said to them, "Well, you need a love interest in here." Yeah. Really? Do you?
Yeah.
Don't think you do.
So basically, Jackson's done a Lucas. That's what we're saying.
Done a total Lucas. I mean, he's saying now that he's finished with Middle Earth, he's going to start doing small-scale films, more like Heavenly Creatures or Bad Taste and stuff like that. I hope that's true.
I don't think he can, because I think he's lost the art of telling stories.
Yeah, they've certainly lost. Yeah, they have. I think he's lost the ability to A, edit himself, B, rein in his. I mean, it's all great to have a big box of toys to play with, but you got to edit yourself, and you've got to look at things and think, is that sensible? There's a bit where there's some troll who's got no arms and legs, just like stumps with balls at the end of them.
I mean, it's like editing this podcast. You've got to know. It might be gold, unlikely, but it might be. But it's known when it has to go on the cutting room floor, and what stays in, and what has to go, and there's none of that. It's like everything has to be on the screen, and I think he's fallen in love with what it is that he's doing here, and he wants it to be on the screen. He can't throw anything away. He can't be objective and say that's going to ruin the pacing of a scene. It's like he wants to play with it all, and he wants to put it all up on the screen. Right. Okay. So avoid. Is that what you're saying, or
no? If you're a fan, you're going to go and see it, and you'll probably enjoy it. But if you're not a fan, I suspect you're not going to go anyway. So
I guess the big plus point here is HFR is finally dead.
It seems to have been killed nicely.
Nobody else is doing it. I'm happy. Right, let's move on. It is the Christmas special, so we're going to do a bit of a Christmas quiz before he has to go and rein in his battling children. Mark, you are quiz master for this. Tell us what it's about and what are the questions.
Right, God, Jesus, we have to be quick. Okay, this is Christmas gifts or gifts from toys from your childhood that you might have got at Christmas that might be worth a few bob or not. So we're going to have a very quick quiz, and we'll start with gaming systems. So your guesses, please, and instant guesses. Nintendo Entertainment System, also known as the NES, released in 1985. Guess.
70 quid.
It's all about condition, isn't it? Mint in box.
Mint, yeah, obviously mint.
Mint in box.
We're assuming
vinyl parlance.
500 quid for it.
Mint
in box.
Mint in box. Let's assume all this is mint in box. It's 485 for Ed wins. Original Game Boy. 10 a penny these were. How much were it worth now?
250 in box.
Mark.
Mint in box, 500.
Ooh, Mark wins £1,000. Yeah.
Only if it's got Motocross Maniacs, though, surely.
No. Mint in box, £1,000.
You've got to test the screen. That's the thing. The screens on the old Game Boys You get the line down the side.
You've got to assume it's working, Mark. That's the whole thing. Atari VCS 2600, the original Atari game system.
Oh, well, 600.
Mark.
I'm going to go lower. I'm going to go probably like 300 or something.
Ed.
I'm going to split them 500 quid.
£75. Apparently, you can get these very easily. They're all over the place.
Yeah, they were
but
really
working systems are 75 quid.
Yes, I gave one away to a charity shop because they were so cheap.
Although if you have a copy of Gamma Attack, you can expect something like.
Not that you like to talk about your charity work, Mark.
I do a lot of work with the community.
Expect how much, Mark?
£50,000, $50,000.
$50,000
for what?
A copy of Gamma Attack. There was only 3 ever made. Apparently,
if you're the charity shop that I gave that to, please hand it back.
Please
get back in touch.
Please get in touch.
Okay. There's only so much I can do.
Crossfire. Do you remember Crossfire? The game where you just shot sort of silver marbles at each other into a goal.
Yeah.
mint in box.
80 quid.
Good. Mark.
50 quid.
Ed.
81 quid.
Oh, don't play that Price is Right game.
Quizmaster's fault. Steve.
40 shillings.
40 shillings. £100. Right, now Luke Skywalker with a double telescoping lightsaber, and I had one of these.
Double telescoping.
Yeah. So it was a limited release because the manufacturers didn't really gauge the success that these things would have. The original Luke Skywalker was released with this double telescoping lightsaber. So it was basically just a plastic rod with another plastic rod. You sort of activated with a lever, and I definitely had one of these. Now tell me,
it comes out of the arm.
No, it comes out. There's like the thick bit of the.
Is
lightsaber.
it like what Darth Maul?
It's a bit dirty. It's a bit like a dog's penis. If you imagine that, how much is that worth? Please tell me.
Why are you keeping your
voice
down?
A dog's penis or
no?
It's probably worth a horrendous amount of money. There's clear frustration and anger in your voice, and I'm sure it's not just the children. 1,300 quid.
Okay, Ed, Phil.
Why are you whispering?
Because the kids are here.
Right. Oh,
don't talk about dogs' penises then.
Sorry,
350.
I think 200.
Okay, Mark.
249.
£1,000. £1,000. And so's Han Solo with a blaster, which I also had, but I lost the blaster early on, so I'm not
he's
quite
£1,000 as well, is he?
bit about that.
Jawas with the original.
Yeah, there's vinyl cloak Jawas.
Vinyl cloak Jawas.
Bonus question.
Don't tell me because I know I had one of them.
Vinyl cloak or cloth?
I had all these.
Well, actually, probably just cloth. Actually.
Yeah, well, the vinyl.
Vinyl cloak.
I had the vinyl one.
Well, the vinyl ones was $18,000.
Yeah,
how much?
And there's also
see, usually with this kind of thing, you'd be tempted to say, well, you're a child, you had the enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
But even if you work it out on an hourly level, you still think, I wish I'd just kept it in the packet.
Yeah.
There's also the original Boba Fett with the launchable rocket out of his backpack.
I had that too.
Because they took that, they changed it to a non-launchable one because it was a choke hazard and it have kids' eyes out and stuff. That's worth a shitload of money as well.
Again, I had that because I sent off for it in a 4-in-1 pack when I got my Luke Skywalker Skywalker with double telescoping lightsaber. And I got both of those in one pack, and it cost about $7.95, and I've given them both away, and I don't know where they are.
No one tells me how much He-Man figures are worth these days.
I didn't look at that.
It depends.
I chewed them, so
Well, that's your prerogative.
I ruined them.
And then finally, right, because I really have to go. I don't know. My friend had this one, and this was Raving Bonkers, aka I've just sent you a link, aka Rock'em Sock'em Robots, which was like a.
Oh, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, yeah.
Did you have Rock'em Sock'em Robots?
Yeah.
Guess how much that is.
Yeah, but hang on a second. Are we talking about an original 60s edition or what? Because they've been making them for 20 something years.
It was 70s, wasn't it?
There are American ones which are older than that.
Oh, right, okay. But anyway, go on, tell me.
I'll go for 800 quid.
Okay, Ed.
If it's one of the original ones in mint condition, I'd easily 1,500 quid. I'd have thought something crazy like that.
Hey, Mark?
£1,499.
100,000.
About 50 quid. Nothing. I was really surprised with that. It was worth very little.
They were the poor man's hungry hippos, anyway.
Well, I think it was
the precursor.
Don't you mean ravenous rhinos?
And on that note, I'll bid you good night and a Merry Christmas, folks.
Bye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
I just like the idea of him just putting his headset down and going, right!
I like to think that he's got like an oak beam that he bars the door with. Once they find the battering ram, he knows he's got 10 minutes.
Like sentry guns in Alien. They just count down to 0 shots. And that's it. He's just got some nerfs.
He's got the motion detector. He's like, 3 meters, they're inside the room.
I can't talk about dogs' penises.
That was quite funny. Imagine looking up old...
Withers,
you've gone now. You've gone now.
North Korea have called
You've been pouring wine on your microphone again. I bet you that Bond's found a new fucking villain.
Right, moving on. Blu-rays released next week. If you're in the mood for movies, I'm guessing don't bother buying Blu-rays, Steve.
No. Yes, moribund format. It's finished. Don't bother at all. No, what they've got out next week, 2 films, neither of which I've seen, by the way, both of which didn't look particularly good in their trailers. One is Sex Tape with Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel, and the other one is Let's Be Cops with Marlon Wayans and the other guy out of New Girl, whose name escapes me right now. But yeah, I'd probably give them wide berth if I was you. Save your money up, spend it in the new year on something good like Boyhood.
Yeah, or enter competitions and win stuff. We've got quite a few competitions on at the minute. Why don't you go through them, Steve?
Well, as same as last week for 2 of them, it's X-Air Spacers, which, as Ed pointed out, are quite handy little spacers for getting air around your HiFi or AV equipment so they don't overheat. That competition ends on 20th of December, so this goes out on 19th. You've got 1 more day left, 1 more day to get in that competition, but they're quite handy. Apparently, Ed was taught them up quite well.
It's quite. Joking aside, you have to stack your equipment. Really, quite a useful thing to have, no question.
Also got Eat, Sleep, Live AV stand. So a nice big AV stand for all your equipment.
Big. You've seen my stand. That's a tiddler.
Yeah, okay. Well, unless you've got a custom built one that's the size of an entire room, like Ed has. But for those of us who live in a more
Ed, does yours have a built-in beer fridge?
No, I do have a beer fridge.
I thought you might.
I mean, ironically, that's the only reason that I have not 1 at the moment, but 2 Isotech mains conditioner things, because otherwise you get a click from the beer fridge compressor that goes through the speakers into the system. So by the simple expedient of adding £3,600 worth of mains conditioning, that problem has been dealt with.
Talk about first world problems. The click from the beer fridge.
And if you hear this noise, that's Ed removing the catheter. Right. The other competition going on, so that competition ends on the 5th of January, so you've got a bit of time yet on that one. But again, worth winning, I think, for anyone who's got a TV and some AV equipment and want to put nice and tidily in the corner of their lounge. We've also got a Samsung BDF5100 Blu-ray player plus 3 Blu-rays. I'm glad to hear that they're Blu-rays, given what you guys were saying earlier. We've got basically a triple bill of Tarantino movies. We've got True Romance, which is a great film, worth having in itself. Pulp Fiction, worth having again. And Inglourious Basterds, which is also a good movie. So 3 really great Tarantino movies there. He didn't direct True Romance, but he did write it. It was directed by the late Tony Scott, God rest his soul. That also ends on the 5th of January. And then we've got the Soundmagic E10 S.
Do you want me to do this one on account
which ends on the 5th of February. Ed, over to you.
Now, I've never reviewed the E10S for AVForums, but I have listened to them, used them a lot. I've said all the things about the Shure SE112, and I stand by those things. Nonetheless, this is a cracking pair of earphones for under 50 quid. So the idea of getting a pair for free, that's got to be worth putting some money in for. They are unreasonably good for the money. And it looks like they now have a remote control looking at the picture, which has got to be worth something. So if you are one of those irritating assholes that absolutely has to take a phone call at any given point in your life, that's the one that you need rather than the Shure. So get entering for that bad boy.
Okay, so that's the good quality competitions. And I believe, congratulations, might be in order for Chris Cox, for member Lion. Because of what, Steve?
He's the lucky man who won a signed copy, signed by me, I should say that, not Whoopi Goldberg.
Did you sign your name or just draw a big crudely drawn cock in marker?
There was no phallus involved at all. I wrote on it, "Dear Chris, I hope you enjoy this utter rubbish." All my love, Steve. No, I just put Steve. Yes, he's won the signed copy of Theodore Rex DVD, which I posted to him on Monday. We're recording this on Wednesday, and he actually mentioned today he got it, so he's got it ready for Christmas. How's that for a Christmas present?
I like
signed
to think
copy
of
of
him
Theodore Rex.
sat in front of his television, like the Nazis melted in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
Just literally just turned it on and just gone just fallen apart.
And that's it, sadly, or gladly, whichever way you look at it. Brings to the end our Christmas special AVForums podcast. My thanks to Steve Withers.
Merry New Year!
Mark Botwright.
How much for the gun?
And Ed Selley.
When I was a kid, if we wanted bubbles, we had to fart in the tub.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, bookmarkavforums.com for latest reviews, news and video, and you can also leave us a rating on iTunes if you enjoyed the show. I'm Phil Hinton, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and don't forget to follow us at CES from the 5th of January on the forums. Keep an eye on the homepage for all the videos, interviews, written pieces, everything coming from Vegas, and we're back again on the podcast on the 14th of January. Until then, like I say, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Merry
Happy Hanukkah,
Christmas.
Crazy Kwanzaa, etc.
Hello, this is Stuart and Vicki Wright, the founders of AVForums, and we'd like to take this opportunity to, first of all, wish the editorial team from the home cinema section, Phil, Steve, Mark and Ed, on tech, Greg, at the movies, Simon, Kaz and Chris, and playing games, Mark, Stephen, Leon, Manny, Niall, Steve and James. To all of you, very Merry Christmas. Thank you very much indeed for the fantastic content that you've produced for AVForums this year. We love it. Very entertaining and very, very useful. Thank you guys. Next, it's the moderators who keep AVForums running smoothly, with particular shout out to the classified mods and the general chat mods who have extra special work to do. Thank you very much, one and all. To the advertising team headed up by John, and to all of our sponsors who've supported AVForums this year. You help us pay the bills. Thank you very much indeed. We very much appreciate your support. And lastly, to the folks without whom AVForums wouldn't be the community that we are so proud of. The members, thank you very much indeed for visiting and supporting and posting on AVForums. We hope that you enjoy the site, and 2015 we're going to continue to work hard to give you a site that you want to come back to. So to everybody,
Merry Christmas
and a Happy New Year.